What's up everyone, John from ARTV. This video is going to be a little bit different than what you've ever seen on this channel or maybe even beyond ARTV before, but you know what I said when I said everything's going to be on a 4-week rotating schedule with the main series like Dear John, Ranked, and the top 10s. Normally every 2 weeks we have an episode of Dear John on the rotating basis, but on that other week sometimes I said maybe that'll be a special video. Well, that is exactly what you're getting today, because I've always kind of wanted to dip my feet into the waters of video essays, but I either never really had the time to write them out and do all of the research that I wanted to, or just have the planning or the skill to edit them the way that I envision them in my head. So with that being said, shout out to my viewer Joel, who I have actually hired to edit this series. He's going to be editing those. Hannah, of course, still doing all the other fantastic edits on the channel. I couldn't throw anything else on her plate at this time. I know I'm giving a little bit of a preface to this video, and I hope that you understand I'm not normally going to leave these lengthy intros in the start of these video essays and that sort of thing, but I felt the need to explain myself on this one, and if I do the intros in the future, they will be more related to the video that you are about to watch. So this video today, obviously about Fall Out Boy, all just my opinions and that sort of thing. I wrote the falling out of Fall Out Boy a couple of months ago, and I really wanted to bring it to life, and it gave me the inspiration to start maybe writing some more video essays. So please, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Do you want to see more? I have ones planned for both Lady Gaga and Blink-182. I hope you would be excited for both of those, so please sound off down below. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed the video essay. Check out my editor Joel, linked in the description down below, and let's get started. Think all the way back to 2007. Pete Wentz's hair looked something like this, and mine attempted to mimic it. The emo invasion was in full swing, and the whole nation seemed to be swept up in the movement as Fall Out Boy claimed their rightful throne. The band was founded on the principles of pop punk, but edged themselves out from the competition on Take This to Your Grave with wistfully deep and well-penned lyrical content.
Let's play this game. Come when you catch fire. I wouldn't miss to put you out.
In a weird record label arrangement, Fall Out Boy were signed to smaller label Fueled by Ramen for the debut album, but instantly moved to major label Island in 2005 for their massive breakthrough from under the cork tree. History writes itself for the band over the next 3 years, as Fall Out Boy scored multiple top 10 hits on the Billboard Hot 100 and countless others on the alternative and rock charts. Fast forward to 2008 as the band are riding high on the successes of their magnum opus Infinity on High, and Fall Out Boy begin to start crashing, but they were you know where I'm headed with that reference, so keep the whole wave thing in mind when we get to Mania here shortly. Tensions in the band were high, understandably so since they had been going almost literally non-stop since 2003. When a band blows up like Fall Out Boy did, especially at this time in the 2000s, everybody wants you. Award shows, concert promoters, festivals, late night programs, etc., etc. The boys were hurting, and Pete Wentz channeled his general frustrations into an incredibly competent and diverse piece we now know as the album Folie à Deux. Folie brought backlash from the fans, which particularly hurt members like vocalist Patrick Stump. His more soulful vocals were incredible, but not all felt the same way, especially a decade ago in 2008. The band went into shutdown mode in 2009, fulfilling their final contractual obligations as they prepared to take a much-needed break. Pete Wentz in particular was going through a living hell in his own personal life, dealing with relationship issues, a newborn child Bronx, plus the biggest obstacle of all, which was his own depression and addictions. While he had felt at times that this had fueled his creativity, it was becoming more and more clear to the band and the world at large that he needed help. The band essentially went into hibernation in 2009 and confirmed the hiatus in 2010, with Wentz further adding, "A hiatus is forever, or until you get lonely or old. I don't plan on either." However, he would go on to eat his own words as the band recorded material in secret throughout 2012, returning bigger than ever with the bombastic and different sounding Save Rock and Roll. Little did we know, it was the beginning of the end for Fall Out Boy, and the things that hurt them in the first place would be replicated as the band loses steam again in 2018. Now that we've caught up to modern day Fall Out Boy, let me explain what I meant earlier when I alluded to the wave. Mania was initially teased with a crashing purple wave, which later, to me at least, became symbolic of the very thing they wrote about on Infinity on High in 2007. You're crashing but you're no wave felt more appropriate than ever to describe the band, as their ear-thrashing lead single Young and Menace desperately tried to channel the writing style of Wentz's younger self. There's nothing wrong with enjoying the song, but there's also no denying that it was a failure in terms of pleasing both fans, critics, and even the general public, as the song failed to even chart on the Hot 100, after their album American Beauty, American Psycho had turned out 2 top 40 hits. What was left to do other than to reroute themselves and put the brakes on the album's release? Originally slated for release in September of 2017, it was announced by Patrick Stump in July that the record simply wasn't ready, and he wouldn't want to put something out that he and the band didn't strongly believe in. While this gave a glimmer of hope after a pair of tracks that ranged from mediocre to flat out bad, the January 2018 release date seemed way too far off to even think about. When it finally did arrive, it was just as messy and as clouded as the flat out annoying marketing that surrounded it. Take a moment to think back on what the band were before the hiatus. They were a creative group with skillful guitar blast from the great Joe Troman, soaring hooks from Stump, and a driving rhythm section in the form of Wentz and drummer Andy Hurley. Whether you enjoyed their music or not, it was really hard to deny their talent and knack for writing a song that actually made you think. Now that we've arrived at the age of social media, Fall Out Boy's marketing team, which Wentz often directly oversees due to his involvement with DCD2 Records and Crush Management, took full advantage of whatever was trending or popular starting around the release of American Beauty. Sure, this has no impact on the actual music, but the mentality behind desperately attempting to be relatable to the kids does. That mindset eventually caught up to them, and the result of that is now what we call Mania. How did Fall Out Boy truly fall out? I would say by pushing themselves to return in the first place, or rather to linger after they saw just how successful the comeback was. The tropes of touring and being around each other constantly and having to write new music is what did them in the first time, yet it was supposed to be different once they came back. Fall Out Boy have run away from their instincts at every given opportunity, chasing this pipe dream of being that cool rock and roll band that tours with the latest hip-hop artists and shares playlist space with Skrillex. Instead of expanding on their sound and creative sonic directions like Folia do, and even bits of safe rock and roll, they saw the pop market in desperate need of a radio-friendly band, and then they became just that. Mania was the final unraveling of a thread that was destined to come apart at the seams, yet it still appeased the relentless fans, which is fine because we all have different tastes. However, I find it impossible to argue that this is even remotely a snapshot of what they're truly capable of. I desperately want better things for this band. Instead of turning this into a complaining therapy sesh, let me actually vent what I think could make this band great again. Number 1, more time off. I truly believe that the band has put enormous amounts of pressure on themselves by releasing 3 full-length albums, an EP, and a few remix projects in just 4.5 years. Even though there has been time off, it's been restless time off, where they've felt the deadlines of album releases closing in quickly. Fans would completely understand and even appreciate this decision to take time off from the road and the studio, especially if it meant better music in the future. Number 2, get back to the basics. Remember how great it was when the dudes dropped an explosive punk rock EP out of nowhere, and how it was produced by someone who doesn't constantly make you strain your ears to hear the guitar? Ryan Adams did that for Fall Out Boy, and another producer could as well. Get back to the fundamentals of writing songs on your instruments, play with the melodies that used to flow so naturally out of your heads. I'm not asking for a return to pop punk, or even a return to straight up alternative rock. I'm simply asking for something innovative and consistent, rather than a complete pop-ridden mess. Number 3, don't pretend to be something you're not. It's okay to get older. It's okay to not be able to relate to the kids on a fidget-spinning, meme-loving level. It's okay to not have an aesthetic, or theme, or continuous story to every project you release. It's okay to tour with other rock bands and not mostly just hip-hop acts that all of your fans more than likely don't care that much about. And most importantly of all, it's okay to be Fall Out Boy. Own it. Be a band, embrace who you were and who you can become, and then we're headed right back in the right direction. Thank you so much for tuning into the first ever video essay I have on this channel. It took a while to write and perfect and everything like that, at least the way I wanted to get it and that sort of thing, but I do hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to see another Fall Out Boy video, tap right over here or right over here for another recent video I think you might enjoy. Stay tuned for more essays in the future, and other than that, subscribe and I'll see you soon on ARTV.